5 करोड़ तक बैंक ऑफ बड़ौदा संभाल लेगा। बड़ौदा महिला स्वावलंबन लोन, तो शुरू कीजिए अपना ड्रीम बिजनेस।
Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 1 hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi lauds 2025 budget as the people's budget, says it will give momentum to making the country self-reliant. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announces a major relief for the middle class. No income tax up to 12 lakh rupees under the new tax regime.
There will be no income tax payable up to income of 12 lakh rupees.
New income tax slabs brought in budget 2025, 30% tax only for 2.4 million INR and above annual income, 25% rate introduced for incomes between 2 to 2.4 million INR. And the Finance Minister exempts 36 life-saving drugs from basic customs duty, highlights development of at least 100 gigawatts of nuclear energy by 2047. And 3 Israeli hostages released in the latest Gaza exchange, negotiations to start by Tuesday for a deal for the release of the remaining hostages. But first up, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has hailed the Union Budget 2025. He's called this year's budget a people's budget and said that it fulfills the dreams of the common people.
आज भारत की विकास यात्रा का एक महत्वपूर्ण पड़ाव है। ये 140 करोड़ भारतीयों की आकांक्षाओं का बजट है। ये हर भारतीय के सपनों को पूरा करने वाला बजट है। हमने कई सेक्टर्स युवाओं के लिए खोल दिए हैं। सामान्य नागरिक विकसित भारत के मिशन को ड्राइव करने वाला है। ये बजट एक फोर्स मल्टीप्लायर है। ये बजट सेविंग्स को बढ़ाएगा, इन्वेस्टमेंट को बढ़ाएगा, कंजम्पशन को बढ़ाएगा और ग्रोथ को भी तेजी से बढ़ाएगा।
Now, Prime Minister Modi thanked Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and said that this year's budget lays a foundation for citizens of the country to become partners in development.
मैं वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण जी और उनकी पूरी टीम को इस जनता जनार्दन का बजट, पीपल्स का बजट, इसके लिए बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। साथियों, आमतौर पर बजट का फोकस इस बात पर रहता है कि सरकार का खजाना कैसे भरेगा, लेकिन ये बजट उससे बिल्कुल उल्टा है। लेकिन ये बजट देश के नागरिकों की जेब कैसे भरेगी, देश के नागरिकों की बचत कैसे बढ़ेगी और देश के नागरिक विकास के भागीदार कैसे बनेंगे, ये बजट इसकी एक बहुत मजबूत नींव रखता है।
And the PM also highlighted how promotion of the private sector in nuclear energy will add to the development of the country.
इस बजट में रिफॉर्म की दिशा में महत्वपूर्ण कदम उठाए गए हैं। न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी में प्राइवेट सेक्टर को बढ़ावा देने का निर्णय बहुत ही ऐतिहासिक है। ये आने वाले समय में सिविल न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी का बड़ा योगदान देश के विकास में सुनिश्चित करेगा.
India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the Union Budget 2025 in the lower house of the Indian Parliament earlier in the day, marking a significant milestone with a record 8th consecutive budget presentation. With focus on the middle class of the country, the FM said that the new tax regime will substantially reduce taxes of the middle class, as there will be no income tax payable up to an income of 1.2 million Indian rupees.
This government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, has always believed in the admirable energy and ability of the middle class in nation building. In recognition of their contribution, we have periodically reduced their tax burden. Right after 2014, the nil tax slab was raised to 2.5 lakhs of rupees, which was further raised to 5 lakh rupees in 2019 and to 7 lakh rupees in 2023. This is reflective of our government's trust on the middle class taxpayers. I am now happy to announce that there will be no income tax payable up to income of 12 lakh rupees.
The Finance Minister also announced the revised tax rate structure would change slabs and rates to benefit all taxpayers.
In the new tax regime, I propose to revise tax rate structures as follows: 0 to 4 lakh rupees nil, 4.8 lakh rupees to 4 to 8 lakh rupees 5%, 8 to 12 lakh rupees 10%, 12 to 16 lakh rupees 15%, 16 to 20 lakh rupees 20%, 20 to 24 lakh rupees 25%, and above 24 lakh rupees 30%.
And the FM also said that a new tax bill will be introduced in Parliament next week.
Over the past 10 years, our government has implemented several reforms for convenience of taxpayers, such as faceless assessment, 2, taxpayer charter, 3, faster returns, 4, almost 99% returns being on self-assessment, and 5, Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. Continuing these efforts, I reaffirm the commitment of the tax department to trust first, scrutinize later. I also propose to introduce the new income tax bill next week.
And reacting to the Union Budget, India's Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri has said that it caters to all sections of the society.
It's our 8th budget, and this is a budget which caters to all sections of the economy. But more than that, it provides a kind of relief to the salaried middle class, which is very welcome, which was anticipated partly. The salaried middle class has more money in its hands, it will have more consumption, and the demand will go up. You will immediately look at the impact on the market. The auto stocks went up.
The Union Budget 2025 has received widespread appreciation from industry leaders across various sectors, highlighting its emphasis on economic growth, infrastructure development, sustainability and MSME empowerment. Experts have praised its focus on strengthening India's industrial foundation, fostering innovation and enhancing global competitiveness. Listen in.
I would like to commend the Honourable Finance Minister for her leadership and the comprehensive budget she has presented today, which I think has been a pretty balanced budget. And of course, the most celebrated aspect of the budget has been the giant relief for the middle class in terms of the massive change in the income tax rates. Additionally, the changes in the TDS and the TCS norms would go a long way towards its endeavours for ease of doing business and ease of compliances. This budget is a commendable step as an enabler towards notable push towards clean tech and EV growth, as highlighted by the Honourable FM.
I would like to compliment the Finance Ministry and the entire team. They have given a fabulous budget. They have given money in the hands of middle class, which was the need of the hour. I think this will help in boosting the overall GDP growth rate of the country. And overall, an excellent budget, a very growth-oriented budget, very focused budget. So I would give 9.5 out of 10 for this budget.
The three key focus sectors, manufacturing, infrastructure and upskilling. In manufacturing, the National Manufacturing Mission will definitely boost Make in India. The infrastructure, for me, the new age cities through infrastructure investments and PPP projects driven will definitely transform the urban projects. Now on the upskilling, the AI for Center of Excellence will help our education system and also the workforce of the future to adopt the latest technology. Now put together, I must say the technology adoption across all the sectors in India will definitely help India to be the leader for the sustainable development and digital transformation.
And praising the rise in capex allocation, FICCI President Harsh Vardhan Agarwal said that it will have a multiplier effect on the economy.
The capex has been put at 11.2 lakh crore, which is a 10% increase on what the government is expecting to spend this year. And since capex has the multiplier effect, so we are quite happy that the government is continuing with that journey of focusing on the capex.
FICCI Vice President Vijay Shankar hailed the increase in capex allocation in the budget as well.
Ease of doing business, focus on the rural, focus on the lower end of the urban population. I think all of these are very positive from the budget without compromising on fiscal consolidation. I think the focus on continued path of bringing down the fiscal deficit from 4.8 to 4.8%, 4.4%, big positive, not compromised on capital expenditure.
RPG Group Vice Chairman Anant Goenka praised increased focus on MSMEs in the budget as well.
Budget was very positive. I think big bang announcement was abolishment of income tax for up to 12 lakh income. This will give money to the hands of the middle class, increase consumption and have other implications on increasing private investment. Second is fair amount of focus on job creation by focusing on MSMEs, by focusing on high employment sectors such as toys, leather goods, footwear.
In a conversation with DD India's Shama Mishra, CEO and MD of National Stock Exchange Ashish Chauhan hailed the government's fiscal deficit target as well.
You lay out the fine details.
For me, I think there are three components of the budget which I liked. One of them is the more money in the hands of the middle class by reducing tax. The second is ensuring that there is a momentum on infrastructure creation which continues. And third is the fiscal deficit in check to 4.4%. These three are in a way competing priorities. So if you in any budget for any finance minister, if they want to reduce the fiscal deficit, then they need to increase taxes here. And of course, if they want to spend more money on infrastructure, then again the fiscal deficit goes up. So these three have been combined very beautifully.
And in her speech, the minister also asserted that the Indian economy is the fastest growing among all developing economies. She noted that India's development track record in the past decade and structural reforms have drawn global attention.
Our economy is the fastest growing among all major economies. Our development track record for the past 10 years and structural reforms have drawn global attention. Confidence in India's capability and potential has only grown in this period. We see the next 5 years as a unique opportunity to realize Sabka Vikas, stimulating balanced growth of all regions.
Now, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the Union Budget for 2025-26 in Parliament. While presenting the budget, the Finance Minister said that India's economy is the fastest growing among all major economies in the world. She also said that the proposed budget measure is focused on 10 broad areas, and this budget aims to take everyone along on an inclusive growth path. The FM added that this budget is dedicated to accelerating growth, driven by aspirations for a Viksit Bharat or a developed India. Let's now take a look at other major highlights of the Union Budget.
Her white and red sari said it all. She meant business. This was her 8th budget. The Indian economy in flight was now cruising at around 7% as it surveyed the markets around it. She saw the opportunity to put money where it mattered, in sectors that needed a boost, where India could develop and sustain an edge, and also in the infrastructure that held the economy together. Her fuel, reforms. The guiding spirit, inclusivity. And the destination, Viksit Bharat. So this is what she did. More money in the hands of the middle class. No tax with total income up to 12 lakh rupees. More credit guarantee for small businesses, the backbone of exports. Additional credit of rupees 1.5 lakh crore in the next 5 years for MSMEs. New fund of funds with expanded scope and fresh contribution of another 10,000 crore rupees to be set up for startups. Support for leather footwear and products to facilitate 22 lakh jobs. Create turnover of 4 lakh crore rupees and exports of rupees 1.1 lakh crore. India Post to be transformed into a large public logistics organization to benefit new entrepreneurs, women, self-help groups, MSMEs and large business organizations. Gig workers of online platforms to get healthcare under PM Jan Arogya Yojana to help 1 crore workers. Rupees 1.5 lakh crore proposed for 50-year interest-free loans to states for capex. Asset monetization plan for 2025-30 to plough back capital of rupees 10 lakh crores in new projects. Regulatory and fiscal measures will be fine-tuned to support the plan. Extension of Jal Jeevan Mission until 2028 with enhanced total outlay. Urban Challenge Fund of rupees 1 lakh crore to implement cities for growth hubs, creative redevelopment of cities and water and sanitation challenges. Maritime Development Fund with corpus of 25,000 crore rupees to be set up. Special window for affordable and mid-income housing. Rupees 15,000 crore for another 1 lakh units. Private sector research, development and innovation initiative gets rupees 20,000 crores. FDI limit for insurance sector raised from 75 to 100%. A light touch regulatory framework to be put in place for ease of doing business. Total estimated expenditure rupees 50.65 lakh crores. Total estimated receipts other than borrowing rupees 34.96 lakh crores. Net tax receipts estimated at 28.37 lakh crore rupees. Fiscal deficit estimated at 4.4% of GDP.
And still to come on the India NewsHour. The US is set to impose stiff tariffs on imports from Mexico, Canada and China starting today. And a small aircraft crashes in the US city of Philadelphia.
पर लोन लेने के लिए खुद का हैवी मार्जिन लगाना पड़ता है। 80% तक का बिजनेस लोन मिलेगा, हाँ? वो भी कोलैटरल फ्री। अच्छा, 5 करोड़ तक बैंक ऑफ बड़ौदा संभाल लेगा। बड़ौदा महिला स्वावलंबन लोन, तो शुरू कीजिए अपना ड्रीम बिजनेस। पर लोन लेने के लिए खुद का हैवी मार्जिन लगाना पड़ता है। 80% तक का बिजनेस लोन मिलेगा, हाँ? वो भी कोलैटरल फ्री। अच्छा, 5 करोड़ तक बैंक ऑफ बड़ौदा संभाल लेगा। बड़ौदा महिला स्वावलंबन लोन, तो शुरू कीजिए अपना ड्रीम बिजनेस।
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour, I'm Gautam Roy. Now, after presenting the Union Budget, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman addressed a press conference in New Delhi on Saturday. While addressing, she said that the income tax bill will be tabled in Parliament next week.
The voice of the people, which is what Prime Minister Modi is known for in his administration. It's a very responsive government. And as a result, the income tax simplification, which I announced in July, is already completed in its works, and we shall bring the bill in the next week. So the income tax simplification, about which in July budget I have gone in detail to say, the work is completed within 6 months is what I said. Within 6 months we've brought the bill. It will be coming into the Parliament next week.
And speaking on the MSME sector, the FM said that she has given greater emphasis on the sector in this budget.
The continued emphasis that we're giving since vote on account budget, July budget, and now on the MSMEs, whether it is giving them sovereign guaranteed loan, whether it is support during COVID, whether the definition being changed now for better, more inclusive growth in MSMEs, access to bank credit. So MSMEs have also been given greater emphasis.
And Nirmala Sitharaman also said that the agricultural sector performed very well during COVID pandemic, and this budget talked about Beej to Bazaar, that is seed to the market, which means from, okay, that is what it means.
This budget has so many things for all of us to talk about. The more important thing about agriculture, which performed very well during COVID and which has contributed to India's food security, the proposals which are mentioned in this budget actually talk about everything to do with Beej to Bazaar, literally from the stage of seeds, hybrid seeds, resilient, climate resilient seeds, seeds which can give greater output, seeds which are going to be high yielding, all this together to the final point of India becoming the world's food basket. That's the definition I put in when I was talking about Vikasit Bharat.
And the FM also underlined that this budget aims to initiate transformative reforms across 6 domains to augment growth potential and global competitiveness. She said that in the journey of development, reforms is the fuel.
Urban development, mining.
The budget proposals by Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will usher in a string of reforms in various sectors. This development will have a cascading domino effect on the overall economy, as the reforms will spur the growth in specific areas and act as a catalyst for the remaining sectors.
This budget aims to initiate transformative reforms across 6 domains. During the first 5 years, these will augment our growth potential and global competitiveness.
The most people-friendly part of the speech was, in fact, the announcement of a new income tax bill which will be brought in next week, reaffirming government's commitment of trust first, scrutinize later. The new income slabs are also sure to bring in loud cheer from all sections of the society. Government will forego at least 1 lakh crore in direct taxes as a result of new liberal direct tax proposals.
The new structure will substantially reduce the taxes of the middle class and leave more money in their hands, boosting household consumption, savings and investment.
Government has announced a light touch regulatory framework for enhanced productivity and employment.
A light touch regulatory framework based on principles and trust will unleash productivity and employment. Through this framework, we will update regulations that were made under old laws.
This feature will entail a new high-level committee on regulatory reforms which will submit recommendations within a year, launch of an investment friendliness index for states, FSDC mechanism, and Jan Vishwas Bill 2.0 to further decriminalize 100 more provisions in various laws. Financial sector reforms have also been identified. An important development will be allowing 100% FDI in the insurance sector. Further, company mergers will be streamlined and rationalized. A forum for development of pension products is also in offing. Power remains an important enabler for industry and homes alike. It plays an important part in any economy's surge northwards. Many important reforms have been promised in the power sector, with the finance minister identifying incentives in distribution sector and ushering in partnership with private sector in the critical area of nuclear energy.
For an active partnership with the private sector towards this goal, amendments to the Atomic Energy Act and the Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act will be taken up.
A state mining index is also among the major reform initiatives taken for the mining sector, which has the benefit of being labor intensive as well as having a domino effect on related areas. Last but not the least, government will also incentivize reforms related to the urban sector. Cumulatively, these steps on reforms in various sectors will go a long way in enhancing ease of doing business, boosting purchasing power of the common man, and providing further fillip for the economic growth of the nation. Ravi Dhiman for DD India.
Well, let's now talk about certain critical aspects of the budget. We're joined by Prasoon Sharma, I beg your pardon, well-known IT expert, and he also follows the economy very keenly. Apologies, Prasoon, for getting your last name wrong initially. But just tell me, what gives you satisfaction about the budget? What tells you that the budget is great for the tech sector? The kind of measures that have been introduced, particularly for startups, another fund of funds for startups, something for deep tech as well, which is being explored.
Yes, and if India has to be like top 3 economies of the world, and if we compare that on the R&D itself, Indian R&D spends in comparison to China, the industry spends around 2% of GDP, while in India just 0.2%. So the government impetus of 20,000 crores of fund for R&D specific industry will boost startup and innovation system, and as you rightly mentioned, the 10,000 additional fund. Then there are other incentives like credit guarantee for startups has been increased from 5 to 10 CR. Then they are also establishing Bharat Trade Net, which will help startups to export. This is a digital infrastructure, and then additional 50,000 Atal Tinkering Labs, which will initiate these entrepreneurships and skilled professionals in Indian market.
Zeal to innovate as well.
Yes. So all these impetus is like a 360 degree support for Indian startups, and I would urge the industries to come forward with Indian governments to spend more in R&D sectors in India if we have to grow as the 3rd largest economy of the world.
How critical is how GCCs are also now being encouraged through the budget as well to this entire endeavor to ensure that the tech sector or the tech environment, the ecosystem in the country grows in the manner that is required almost exponentially, especially with AI around now?
Yes, you rightly mentioned about GCC. The government announced this time that they will promote in tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well, and this will also help the startups which is growing in tier 2 or tier 3 cities as their partners or solution providers, and it will definitely increase the employment and other infrastructure related issues as well. And also it will also give us a global capability for our skills. The startups who are now building solutions for Indian market will also build solutions for global capability centers, like if you say the chip designing. So we have around 30% of chip design engineers in India, but now they will get support to start their own as a freelancers or a startups or a small MSME to work with GCCs. And again, the semiconductor also will enhance a lot of service sectors and supply chains related to that particular industry also in tier 3 and tier 4 cities.
And in terms of how incentives have been through the years been given to startups as well, do you feel that the government is doing enough in that area, or there's a 5-year extension as well that's been given in terms of setting up of startups where you get zero tax liabilities for the initial years?
So government is very keen to provide the ecosystem, but I would say it's our Indian industries who should contribute more in terms of R&D spendings, in terms of creating their own fund for innovations, also in terms of securing some part of their procurement for Indian grown startups or solutions. That will give boost to Indian startup ecosystem. Government is enabling in terms of policy, seed funds and tax exemptions, and also access to export. But now I think from our private sectors, we would like that they should contribute more in this particular sector and join government in all aspects, whether it's access, whether procurement or handholding startups to go abroad or provide solutions to global MNCs.
I'll ask you more about where tech is concerned and encouraging that is concerned, but we have some more inputs coming in. Well, zero income tax till 12 lakh rupees of annual income or 1.2 million rupees of annual income under the new tax regime. Slabs and rates being changed across the board to benefit all taxpayers is what is there in the budget. Now, DD India's Meghna Dev has spoken to Chartered Accountant Karan Shah, who also highlighted that not only the middle class but businesses and MSMEs have also benefited from the budget's measures.
After the union budget, what are your key takeaways with the highlights?
So a big relief is given to salaried employees and middle class people who are earning income till 12 lakhs. So there is no taxation till 12 lakhs. That's a huge relief because any developing countries or even developed countries, it's a huge relief because no one gives such big relief to any of their citizens. Secondly, even they have changed the tax slab. So 0 to 4 lakhs there is no taxation. 4 to 8 there is 5% tax, 8 to 12 there is 10% tax rate, 12 to 16 is 15%, 16 to 20 is 20%, and around 20 to 24 is 25%. So once you go beyond 24 lakhs, you are getting a higher tax slab. So imagine a person earning till 2 lakhs per month is not paying higher tax slab in India, and person who is earning even 1 lakh per month is not even paying tax in India. So that's a huge relief which is given to middle class and salaried employees.
To explain to a common man, what is your sense of this budget? To explain to a common man, what will be easier for them?
If you see overall the budget, if I talk, it's a very progressive budget because see there are a lot of benefits even given to the MSME sector. Imagine MSME sector definition changed from 250 crores to 500 crores. And government is so much giving benefits to MSME sector. For example, collateral free loans. For example, credit facilities. Less interest rate loans to the MSME sector. So even corporate India has benefited a lot, the MSME sector specifically. And if you see overall budget, they have covered skill development, they have covered agriculture, they have covered education sector, even lot of benefits given to Gift City. So as a common man or a medium-sized business person, lot of benefits overall is given even for the way the policy is drafted in the budget.
Speaking on taxation and obviously slashing the income tax slabs for the common person, which will definitely be beneficial, and obviously the joy in a common man's perspective is definitely being seen on social media at the moment. With my colleague Kunal, this is Meghna Dev for India from Ahmedabad, Gujarat.
The budget 2025-26 also focuses on research development, innovation and educational institutions. DD India spoke to Dean of MICA, Premier Strategic Marketing and Communications Institute, who called it a growth-oriented inclusive budget and a budget which caters to youngsters with its technology and skilling aspects.
What are the major takeaways from this union budget?
I think it's a very, very growth-oriented budget. What I liked about the budget is the inclusion that they have added on to the socio-economic sector, the MSMEs, the agriculture. So crucial sectors are identified and given impetus to. The good thing is about the education sector as well and the focus on improving the skills in the various levels of education, right from the schooling to the higher education. Also the 20,000 crore that has been added in the space of startup and innovation. The 500 crore, very interesting outlay for the AI in education. And I think AI in education is something is very needed.
Besides, another aspect, if we look at how much of importance do you think has been given to the sectors that are generating good employment?
Crucial sectors have been focused upon, like MSME, and giving more support to the MSMEs. I think indirectly the employment will definitely increase. The agriculture is another area, and what I liked is combination of the sector, the technology, and the management, and creating an ecosystem for employment generation across the sectors across crucial sectors is the sunrise sectors is what I see.
On what are the major highlights specifically for the youngsters in this budget, specifically speaking about the increase in the number of seats or increase in the budget allocation for startups, innovation, research and development and more. With my colleague Krunal, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from Ahmedabad, Gujarat.
Let's again talk about the tech emphasis in the union budget and how that dovetails into education as well. We have still in our studio Prasar Sharma, well-known IT expert. Prasar, again, if you talk about how it's been taken down to the formative level, even in schools, there's a provision for increased broadband connectivity as well. So, taking all these measures together, to what extent do you think they will benefit the tech sector in the coming days in the country?
So not only it will enhance their skills, but it will also increase our digital economy footprint. And if you see, they have also mentioned about creating a Grameen credit score. So that will also increase, digital finance and e-commerce also. And the credits, like we now also opened insurance for 100% FDI. So this will boost our, insurance or, village insurance, digital insurance. First, we are providing them an infrastructure by providing credit guarantees. Then we are also giving them access till the school or secondary level schools in villages. Thirdly, we are also connecting India Post as a logistic hub in villages. So it's like a comprehensive initiative to boost digital economy. One also important thing which I want to highlight is about our research thing. Like China has around 1850 scientists per million. We just have 250. Now the initiative of PM Research Fellowship, they have increased to 10,000 is remarkable. We need these kind of initiatives to increase our patent filings, new innovations, and when we are talking about in this current scenario of DeepSeek and AI related buzzwords, India needs such kind of initiatives on ground levels, and I think this budget have done a fair part of it, but now I think other stakeholders, industries, institutions should come forward and take these initiatives to a ground level implementation success.
Since you mentioned AI, I just wanted to ask you what you feel about how the AI opportunity / challenge is being taken forward by the budget, because even in the economic survey, while there was talk of deregulation on AI, it seemed that it was being suggested that it's a bit of a double-edged sword and one needs to be careful about how it's handled, because it can have workforce implications, especially in low and middle income roles.
I think our government is very prompt about these AI initiatives. Before the budget also, if you see, the IT minister announced several initiatives, like we announced for AI Safety Institute, which will supervise which project or which technology is safer for our country. Secondly, they also categorize various categories where we will promote AI. Thirdly, they have provided the GPU access, which is like the cheapest in all global GPUs pricing if you compare, and this will be given to Indian stakeholders, whether it's startups or institutions. So I think Indian government is creating the whole ecosystem. Now it's our innovators, our institutions which should take leverage of this. And
just a couple of days back, the IT minister said that we'll have our own foundational AI model. India will have one maximum by 10 months.
So for LLMs, some of our stakeholders are already working. Previously, we thought that we shouldn't spend on this, but after like DeepSeek and other 10 LLMs generated by China, we got more motivation that with the limited GPU access, we can create our own LLMs which can compete the global LLMs or applications. So I think government has already identified stakeholders to generate LLMs. That's why IT Minister was confident and announced that within 10 months we'll have our own LLM, because some work has already been done, but we have to enhance it to keep the global momentum, like to match the global momentum in terms of LLM generation and AI.
And how does the budget take forward the other missions that have been launched when it comes to the tech field, especially the area of chips and making India a semiconductor hub? There's a mission that's already been launched in that direction.
So the chip industry is a long-term investment. It takes around 10 years to just to establish or keep the fab working. But if you see the speed of Indian government or Indian stakeholders working in this is pretty fast compared to global standards. So it will take time, but yes, with AI missions, with have your own GPUs, with having your own LLMs, we can create our own whole AI ecosystem, which will be safer, which will be as you mentioned also can
बुद्धि प्रदे देवी भुक्ति मुक्ति प्रदायिनी मंत्र मूर्ते सदा देवी महालक्ष्मी नमोस्तुते। इस बजट सत्र के प्रारंभ में ही हमें पहला रत्न मिला माननीय राष्ट्रपति जी के अभिभाषण के रूप में। दूसरा रत्न मिला आर्थिक सर्वेक्षण 2024-2025 के रूप में, जिसे वित्त मंत्री श्रीमती निर्मला सीतारमण ने संसद के पटल पर रखा। और 1 फरवरी को मिला है आम बजट 2025-26 के लिए, जिसे अब संसद के पटल पर रखा जा चुका है, ये सार्वजनिक हो चुका है। और इस बजट की बारीकियों को आप तक पहुंचाने के लिए हमारे साथ स्वयं मौजूद हैं वित्त मंत्री, दुनिया के सबसे बड़े लोकतंत्र के वित्त मंत्री, जिन्होंने पूर्णकालिक महिला वित्त मंत्री होने का गौरव प्राप्त किया और लगातार 8वीं बार देश को बजट दिया। माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देश के सबसे बड़े नेटवर्क पर हमें समय देने के लिए। मेरा नाम है अजय मिश्र और मेरे साथ इस चर्चा को अंग्रेजी में आगे बढ़ाने के लिए मेरे साथ सहयोगी हैं मार्क पैट्रिक लेन।
Namaskar. Ma'am, let me start with the first question. Now you mentioned the exemption limit for 12 lakh rupees, but you also mentioned a slab while you were in your speech. So people got a little confused as to whether they have to pay the tax and get a full rebate after that, because the idea is that there's no tax for people who earn 12 lakh rupees. Could you clarify that, ma'am?
Yes, you're right in saying there is a rebate being given. Rebate is when we are saying to that extent you don't need to pay the tax. So the rates are given, and the rates, I like to take this opportunity to tell your viewers that the rates are far lesser than the rates which are prevailing as of today. So one, with the simplification, rate reduction, and also a smooth flow of rate without any jumps, and higher incomes also coming into the lower slab. So the benefit of this income tax reduction that we've done are not just in saying up to a certain income you will pay no tax, but across the board for all incomes the rate is brought down.
Yes.
Up to 12 lakh, not only has the rate come down, but we are saying whatever is the tax incidence falling on the individual will be rebated out, so that they don't have to pay any tax. So when we say rebate, we are saying you don't pay and then expect us to give a rebate in the sense of return, refund. It is, you're not going to pay tax, but that is the amount you should have paid per the tax rates that we've given. Why do we give the rates? We give the rates because this will apply, every band, income band has a particular rate, and people who are earning higher income would to that extent say my first 0 to 4 will be at nil rate, 4 to something else will be at 5%, and so on. So for even his income those rates will apply. If I had kept 12 up to 12 nil rate, it will mean even people who are earning very high amounts will up to 12 not pay any tax at all. That's not the intent. The intent is to benefit the middle class, but not to say that others should not get any tax rate. They will get by the reduced tax rates rather than they having to also get covered under the 12 lakh. Therefore, the differential approach, and people who would pay the, who will calculate their tax based on the rate given will know there is a rebate up to 12 lakhs and they don't need to pay.
मैम शायद ये इस बजट की सबसे बड़ी हाईलाइट है जो भी मार्क सर ने आपसे सवाल किया, और मेरी गुजारिश है आप थोड़ा सा
थैंक यू।
और क्योंकि ये मिडिल क्लास के लिए सबसे बड़ा तोहफा इसलिए है क्योंकि जैसा कि अभी वित्त मंत्री मैम ने बताया कि 4 लाख तक तो कोई टैक्स नहीं है, 4 लाख के ऊपर जैसे ही आपकी आमदनी जाती है आपको टैक्स का रिटर्न भरना जरूरी होगा, और उसके बाद आप रिबेट के आधार पर आपको कैलकुलेशंस के जरिए ये बताया गया कि 12 लाख रुपए तक कोई भी टैक्स नहीं देना होगा। अगर आप सैलरीड हैं तो शायद 13.25 लाख तक, 12.75 लाख तक कोई टैक्स नहीं देना होगा। मैम लेकिन इसके पीछे का अर्थशास्त्र क्या है? इतना बड़ा आपने रेवेन्यू फॉरगॉन किया, क्यों किया ऐसा? जी
नहीं, मैं माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी को धन्यवाद देना चाहती हूँ। इसमें उनके गाइडेंस था कि टैक्स फोरगॉन के कैलकुलेशन से हट करके जनता के हाथ में वापस कितना पैसा, क्योंकि ये लोग कौन है? ये टैक्स पेयर्स है। जनता के हाथ में पैसा देना है तो अलग विषय है, हम अनाज दे रहे हैं मुफ्त में, लोगों को सीनियर सिटीजन्स गरीबी रेखा के नीचे जो है उनको पेंशन मिल रही है, ईपीएफओ में पेमेंट्स मिल रही है, ऐसे बहुत सारे कैटेगरीज हैं। मगर ये कैटेगरी कौन है? ये टैक्स पेयर कैटेगरी है, ज्यादातर चला रहा है। उनके लिए राहत देने के लिए प्रधानमंत्री जी का एक सुझाव था कि आप कुछ ऐसे कैलकुलेशन करो कि टैक्स पेयर ऑनेस्ट टैक्स पेयर से पे कर रहे हैं, उनको क्या हम दे पाएंगे, उसके लिए कैलकुलेट करो और कैलकुलेट करके आ जाओ। सो जब हम गए वो तुरंत इसको हाँ भरवाए कि हाँ दे दो। सो मैं इसको इनकम फोरगॉन के रास्ते से नहीं देख रही हूं, मगर जनता के हाथ में पैसा, कौन जनता? जो टैक्स पेयर।
Ma'am, also with regard to MSMEs, there are many announcements, but you've also made an additional 1.5 lakh crore credit guarantee for MSMEs for the next 5 years. The question comes to mind for the MSMEs is that the credit is available, but at what rates? How will they get it?
That's right. That is why, if you remember, in the last budget in July, I had very clearly said that SIDBI will be now directed to open branches in industrial MSME clusters. Ministry of MSME has more than 180, if I remember the number correct, clusters all over the country where MSMEs are located in one area. So in each one of these clusters, eventually in a matter of 3 years, we want to have as SIDBI branches. When SIDBI directly lends, SIDBI normally lends it through the banks, and the banks sometimes pass it on to the NBFCs. They in turn pass it on to small finance companies who obviously for every stage jack up the interest rate. Whereas here when SIDBI does it directly, the rate of interest is going to be reasonable. And also the usual complaint from MSME is any lender doesn't understand their business cycle. When are the term loans required? What kind of term loans are required? Like for instance, you'll recall, in the last budget I had very clearly come up, for the first time ever in this country, MSMEs used to always get working capital, but they never had term loans. We have, for plant and machinery, we in July budget offered that. But normally, the MSMEs do have a little pet peeve, as I can put it, saying our businesses and business cycles are never understood by the bankers. But when SIDBI operates, they understand the MSME's business cycle, when they would need working capital enhanced, when we can expect them to pay back, and so on. So our approach now is the banks will continue doing what they're doing, but the emphasis would be if SIDBI can directly lend to MSMEs, thereby the interest be ground to a real number.
माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी, आपने प्रधानमंत्री का धन्यवाद किया, लेकिन प्रधानमंत्री ने जब डीडी नेटवर्क पर अपना संबोधन दिया, बजट पर पहला रिएक्शन, तो उन्होंने आपका धन्यवाद किया, आपकी पूरी बजट टीम का धन्यवाद किया, और उन्होंने कहा कि ये बजट फोर्स मल्टीप्लायर है। ये बजट कंजम्पशन को बढ़ावा देता है, इन्वेस्टमेंट को बढ़ावा देता है और ग्रोथ को बढ़ावा देता है। मैम, क्या आप इसे एक्सप्लेन करेंगी? सब 7% ग्रोथ लेवल से हम कैसे देश को 8%, 9%, 10% के लेवल तक ले जाने का प्रयास करेंगे? बजट उसमें क्या भूमिका निभाएगा?
इस बजट के द्वारा हम वेरी क्लियरली एक बात रख रहे हैं कि जनता के लिए क्रेडिट का अवेलेबिलिटी बिल्कुल आवश्यक है। क्रेडिट का अवेलेबिलिटी उनके बिजनेस चलाने के लिए चाहिए, और जब वेजेस का भी इंक्रीज होता तब लोगों के मन में डिस्क्रिशनरी स्पेंडिंग का भी एक सोच आता है। नहीं तो वो कट करके उनका सेविंग्स को जितना डालना है उतना करके बाकी सबका उनका खर्च को नैरो करते हैं। हम चाहते हैं कि जस्ट एज कंपनियों का उनका एक्सपेक्टेशन है कि मार्केट में डिमांड बढ़े, फिर उनका प्रोडक्शन भी बढ़ जाएगा। हम चाहते हैं कि सेविंग्स भी बढ़े और जनता के हाथ में पैसा भी बचे, जिससे उनके बच्चे के एजुकेशन हो, हेल्थ हो, उन सब में खर्च करने के लिए उनका कुछ हो सकता है। जैसे मैंने पहले कहा, ये हाथों में पैसा रखने वाले विषय जनता के सभी वर्गों के लिए हम नहीं कर रहे। टैक्स पेयर को रिस्पेक्ट करके उनको दे रहे हैं, मिडिल क्लास को दे रहे हैं, जिससे उनका मन में जो डाउट आने लगा कि इस सरकार से हम क्या उम्मीद रख सकते हैं। मिडिल क्लास को तो मोदी जी पहले से रिस्पेक्ट करते थे, टैक्स पेयर को रेड कार्पेट, रेड रिबन, आई मीन लाइक there shall not be any corruption, we shall treat taxpayers with respect, taxpayer charter भी हम ले आए। वो सी श्रृंखला में ये भी एक कदम है जिसमें हम टैक्स पेयर को रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं, उनसे ट्रस्ट, उनके ऊपर ट्रस्ट रख करके बिजनेस चलाने के लिए, आगे देश को ले आने के लिए।
ट्रस्ट शब्द का प्रयोग आपने 12 बार किया पूरी स्पीच में। ट्रस्ट बेस्ड अप्रोच तो स्पष्ट तौर पर दिखता है, लेकिन चाहे वो कैपेक्स में ऐतिहासिक बढ़ोतरी हो या फिर टैक्स रिबेट के जरिए, नई कर व्यवस्था के जरिए लोगों के कंजम्पशन को बढ़ावा देना हो, या फिर फिस्कल डिसिप्लिन के जरिए फिस्कल डेफिसिट को लगातार नीचे कम करना हो, ये तीनों ही माध्यम से हम शायद निवेशकों को ये कहना चाहते हैं कि आप आइए, देश में निवेश करिए और भारत तैयार है भविष्य के लिए।
इसके साथ BIT का रिव्यू भी हम कर रहे हैं, जिससे बायलैटरल इन्वेस्टमेंट ट्रीटी अग्रीमेंट्स जो जब देश के साथ दूसरे देश के साथ करते हैं बायलैटरली, उसका भी फॉर्मेट भी और उसका सेक्शंस का भी और रोबस्ट करने के लिए हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं, और सर्टेनली इन्वेस्टमेंट बढ़ाने के लिए जो भी हम मेशर उठाना है उसको उठाएंगे।
Ma'am, you've announced support for the leather, footwear and products industry in terms of toys, in terms of technology and infrastructure, I think. So what kind of support is this, ma'am? I mean, what can they expect?
As it is, you find that we have been giving PLI for many of the products, particularly when it came to electronics, and that has paid off very well. There are some other sectors where we need to give a bit more push, but these three sectors we want to understand their requirements and support them. Just as even in this budget, for instance, I have reduced the duty, import duty on certain critical minerals because they are very important for us, particularly for the MSMEs, for improving on their manufacturing capabilities. Similarly, for leather, we've also tweaked the import duty and export duty for some other items, so that some valued raw material can go from India out, so that small tanners can benefit from it, the crushed leather. So the measures have been not just through one route of incentivizing production. Measures are also for cost cutting in terms of input costs will have to be brought down. If essential raw materials which are not available in India have to be brought from elsewhere, we've enabled reduction in duties as well.
What about transforming India Post, ma'am? And now you're making it into a public logistics organization. What exactly, I mean, how is this going to be done? And I mean, how does it affect the kind of employment?
You know, actually speaking, even today, the dark sevaks in the villages are performing so many multifarious roles. They go sell insurance, they also talk to them about certain kind of services which the post office can give. They run a small payments bank. All this is being done by the post office. There is a huge network all over the country. But if we are not able to optimally utilize them, they also can fall into bad days. As it is, there is not enough support which have been given for very many other plans of the India Post. There was of course some revival done some years back. So we thought, why is it that we have this wide network, Indian assets, huge connect they have with the people. In fact, the local postman or the dak sevak used to be the first one people saw as a representative of government, central government. Post office brings money, checks, or even the pension payment once upon a time. Nowadays everything goes through digital. They were the connect for us. You successfully finished an interview, you got a job, the letter would come through the dak sevak. Zamana gaya. So we want to revive that connect that India Post has with the people and make them also one of the nerve centers for India's growth. Moreover, we want them to also take up the logistics function, because many global marketing companies today and retailers today want network all over the country. These are networks available for us. So we want to give them the facility.
पिन कोड 1.5 लाख से ज़्यादा पिन कोड्स हैं देश में और वो सारे इंडिया पोस्ट को रिवाइव करने के लिए ये बहुत बड़ा कदम। मैम अब मैं आना चाहता हूँ विकसित भारत के डेफिनेशन को। हम लोग अभी तक इस उलझन में थे कि विकसित भारत का मतलब है क्या। ये बजट हमें स्पष्ट तौर पर यह कहता है कि 2047 तक एक भी व्यक्ति इस देश में गरीब नहीं होगा। सभी व्यक्तियों को उच्च शिक्षा मिलेगी, सभी को समग्र स्वास्थ्य सेवाएं मिलेंगी, सभी को स्किल्ड और एम्प्लॉयमेंट मिलेगा, 70% महिलाएं आपके वर्कफोर्स का हिस्सा होंगी,
वर्कफोर्स में आएंगे।
ये सब हम कैसे कर पाएंगे? और जो फ्यूचर के बजट्स हैं, फ्यूचर के प्लान्स हैं, क्योंकि आपने 5 साल 10 साल का इसमें विजन भी रखा है, क्या इस लक्ष्य को ध्यान में रख करके आगे की आर्थिक नीतियां चलेंगी?
बिल्कुल, क्योंकि सिर्फ केंद्रीय बजट का नहीं, इससे इंडिकेशन स्टेट्स को भी मिलता है कि हर एक स्टेट बोल रहे हैं कि हम 1 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी तक बिल्डअप करेंगे, दूसरे स्टेट बोलता है नहीं हम 1 ट्रिलियन नहीं उससे ज्यादा भी कोशिश करेंगे। आखिर देश भर में जब विकसित भारत का चर्चा जब हो रही है, उसका व्हाट आर द इंडिकेटर्स, उसमें से उसके द्वारा क्या अचीव करना चाह रहे हैं, इसका बहुत विस्तार से चर्चा गोष्ठी हुई। कमेटी सेक्रेटरीज, सीनियर सेक्रेटरीज का कमेटी भी बिठाया माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने। पिछले 1 साल उनके द्वारा बहुत डिस्कशन के बाद तय हुआ कि ये हमें चाहिए विकसित भारत का स्टेटस अटेन करने के लिए। इसका मतलब ये है कि हमारे हर एक प्लानिंग में हर एक गोल को अचीव करने के लिए क्या कदम उठाना चाहिए, इस स्कीम में कौन सा करना चाहिए, इसके लिए कितना पैसा इस साल देना है, 10 साल के बाद देना पड़ेगा, ये सब का चर्चा होता है। इसीलिए विस्तार से प्लान कर रहे हैं उस तक पहुंचने के लिए। सिर्फ केंद्र सरकार नहीं, जब पैसा स्टेट्स को भी जाता है वो भी उनके कॉम्पिटिटिव स्पिरिट में आजकल ये रास्ते अपना रहे हैं, जिससे हम सब इकट्ठा होकर के भारत को उस दिशा में ले सकते हैं।
और अगर मैं एक फॉलोअप किस पे कर पाऊं मैम, आपने एक फिगर दिया है कि आपने स्टेट को पिछले साल के मुकाबले 4,91,000 करोड़ रुपए 4.9 लाख करोड़ रुपए एक्स्ट्रा दिया है इस बार। तो आपने तो अपना काम कर दिया केंद्र सरकार के बजट के जरिए, आपने पैसे भी स्टेट्स को दे दिए। स्टेट्स को आपने बोला कि भाई अगले 50 साल के लिए हम आपको इंटरेस्ट फ्री लोन देंगे अगर आप कैपेक्स बढ़ाते हैं या फिर रिफॉर्म्स करते हैं। स्टेट्स को साथ लेके कैसे चलेंगे मैम विकसित भारत के इस विजन को प्राप्त करने के लिए?
मैं एक्चुअली आपको रिस्पॉन्ड करना है तो तुरंत ये बोलूंगी, 21 से ये 50 इयर्स इंटरेस्ट फ्री दे रहे हैं हम। इंटरेस्ट मतलब रुचि इसमें स्टेट्स के साथ से बात करने में आपको समझ में आएगा। स्टेट्स इसको इतना जोश से ले रहे हैं, वो उनको इससे फायदा हो रही है। उनका बहुत देर से, बहुत सालों से पेंडिंग प्रोजेक्ट्स कंप्लीट हो रही है, उनको ये चाहिए और उनके रिक्वायरमेंट्स के अनुसार इंटरेस्ट फ्री जब पैसा मिलता है वो भी तुरंत इसमें काम में लग जाते हैं। इसीलिए स्टेट्स के साथ काम करना इसमें चैलेंज नहीं है, इसमें चैलेंज ये है कि उनके जितना
डिमांड है,
हाँ टर्स्ट है
उसको कैसे
पूरा कैसे करें, वही है।
You've mentioned asset monetization once again, and you have a 10 lakh crore target for it. How different is this from disinvestment and privatization, which a lot of people were hoping to
No,
look at?
disinvestment and asset monetization are completely different. We had said this even earlier. Asset monetization is not selling away the property. It is more optimizing its use and more finding ways for people to use it, because if it's lying idle, if there are uses to which they can be put even by private parties, we would ask them to come and bid for it and take it as a lease, use it as much as they want, earn their money out of it, give also something to the government. The property is going to remain with us. But it is a way in which you can monetize that asset, otherwise which lies idle. This is what we've done even earlier, and based on the kind of reception we've had, we are identifying more assets which can be monetized.
Indeed, and you've also talked about a light touch approach for regulation.
Regulators.
And I mean, even here there's going to be some sort of regulation in the asset monetization. So could you explain to us, for people who are interested in participating in this project, what would they require?
We've got a lot of consultation going with the states. Many states have identified such assets which they want to use for their state's benefit. So they may be assets held by the center, they may be assets held by some public sector undertaking in the center, but it's of greater use for a state's purpose. They would talk it out with the center and see how best. Not just the government, even the private in that area might want to understand how best that can be put to better use. So the methodology of this getting executed has already been shown in the first phase of asset monetization that we had announced. I remember it was during 2020. In one of those several mini budgets, I had announced this, and it has picked up a lot of momentum since after. Now we want to have it benefit a lot more other assets. Clearly what comes of it is going to go back in building newer assets. That's why I said plow back.
माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी, इस समय महाकुंभ 2025 का आयोजन प्रयागराज में चल रहा है और हम सभी आपकी सनातन सभ्यता के प्रति जो दृढ़ विश्वास है उससे भी परिचित हैं। महालक्ष्मी का भी की उत्पत्ति भी समुद्र मंथन से हुई। इस बजट को भी बनाने में आपने बहुत मंथन किया होगा। तो मेरा आपसे दो प्रश्न है। हमें गर्व होता है जब माननीय राष्ट्रपति जी आपको दही चीनी खिला करके विदा करती हैं बजट, और जो दो महिलाओं को देखते हुए विश्व पटल पर बहुत ही गर्व महसूस होता है, और आपने बजट में महिलाओं पर भी बहुत फोकस किया है। पहली बात ये, और दूसरी बात जो प्रधानमंत्री ने कहा है कि इंडियन नॉलेज रिपोजिटरी जो भारतीय ज्ञान मनीषा है, उसके लिए चूंकि हम डॉक्यूमेंटेशन नहीं शायद कर पाए हैं, उसके लिए अब एक नया सिस्टम को आप बनाने जा रहे हैं। प्लीज उस पर प्रकाश डालें।
इसमें दो अंश है। वन, मैनस्क्रिप्ट्स को डिजिटलाइज करने का, उसके लिए देश भर में एक्टिविटी चलेगी, क्योंकि ज़्यादातर मैनस्क्रिप्ट्स इवन नाउ प्राइवेट हैंड्स में है। और हमारे इच्छा ये नहीं है कि उनके कॉपीराइट को ले या उनका पोसेशन राइट को ले, हम सिर्फ उसको डिजिटलाइज करने तक ही उनसे रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे। सो उससे देश भर का हमारे धरोहर है उसका एक जगह पर डिजिटल फॉर्मेट में देख पाएंगे। एंड इसमें रिसर्च करने वाले लोग का इंटरेस्ट भी है, कहीं इधर उधर जा करके वो ढूंढना अनावश्यक है, रिपोजिटरी अगर बन जाता है। इसीलिए इसके ऊपर इस बार घोषणा करने की आवश्यकता है, और ये रिपोजिटरी बनाने के बाद सबके लिए इसको एक्सेस देने का भी हम प्लान कर रहे हैं।
और महिलाओं के लिए?
महिलाओं के लिए मैं इस बजट में हर स्कीम में हर एक में ये मेंशन करना है कि इससे गरीब, महिला, अन्नदाता, नारी, युवा सबके लिए बेनिफिट, हर एक स्कीम को मैं वो बात बोल सकती हूँ, मगर वो नहीं बोल, पहले से ही हम बोल रहे हैं। अगर हम 4 इंजन देख रहे हैं, वैसे ही 4 ग्रुप जनता के ग्रुप देख रहे हैं जिसको हम टारगेट रख के उन तक पहुंचाने के लिए हर स्कीम को डिजाइन करना। इसीलिए हर स्कीम में एक ना एक, चाहे वो गरीब और महिला या युवा और गरीब और अन्नदाता, सब कनेक्टेड है।
क्योंकि पहली बार शायद कोई महिला उद्यमी कोई आती है तो उसके लिए आपने टर्म लोन की व्यवस्था की, इसलिए मैंने ये सवाल किया।
ये नया स्कीम है, इसका नाम अभी तक तय नहीं हुआ है। हम पिछले कम से कम 9 साल से ये स्टैंड अप इंडिया का कार्यक्रम कर रहे हैं, उसमें अच्छा सक्सेस है, मगर उससे आगे बढ़ाने के लिए ये कोशिश हो रही है, जिसमें और 50 करोड़ लोग को जोड़ने के लिए सो दूर दराज इलाके में जहां बैंक ब्रांच है, उस बैंक के ब्रांच के द्वारा इंक्रीज्ड अमाउंट दे करके इनोवेटिव आइडियाज के साथ अगर कोई एससी हो, एसटी हो या महिला हो आते हैं तो उनको बैंक के द्वारा सिक्योर्ड लोन, मतलब
2 करोड़ का टर्म लोन
हाँ
दिया
जी,
जाए।
हाँ जी,
50 करोड़
50 का,
ये बहुत बड़ा
एग्जैक्ट नंबर मैं बोलती हूँ आपको। फिर भी इसमें हम ये क्या बोलते हैं, कोलैटरल फ्री लोन है, इसीलिए जनता तक पहुंचाने के लिए हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
Ma'am, you put a lot of money in the hands of the middle class, and obviously aspirationally they'll want to now look for more affordable housing, and the Swami scheme also you've mentioned.
Yes.
So in this some 15,000 crores for another 1 lakh units for the middle class to be ready, I think in this year. Is there enough supply to meet this need, ma'am?
No, actually
for affordable housing. Yes.
No, actually there are a lot more projects which are unfortunately stuck, and actually middle class is suffering because they have taken this loan and they are paying their EMI with an expectation that the house would be given within n number of years. But now it is delayed for 2 years, 3 years, or in some cases even 4 years. So this Swami first, which was launched in end of 2019, early 20, has actually shown good positive output. It is very carefully monitored and money is released in a very layered fashion. So nobody again is going to divert the money for anything else. They are RERA approved projects, and therefore there is a scheme of things which runs in a systematic fashion, and systematic fashion, and we are able to also track the developments. And that is why we thought this is a safer way and also a sure way of making people get their apartments, which is long overdue.
Ma'am, what are your expectations from increasing the FDI limit in insurance from 74% to 100%?
Because even now a lot of companies who have shown interest, or investors who have shown interest from abroad, are seeking ownership, and because of that there is a greater possibility of money coming much more. Of course, we have very clearly said all the premium collected in India should be invested in India. Otherwise, there used to be this doubt saying, what happens if they come collect the insurance premium and go away or something like that. So we made enough guardrails for it.
वित्त मंत्री जी, अब मैं 4 इंजन जो आपने बताया उसमें से मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को टच करना चाह रहा हूं, क्योंकि वो ग्रोथ ओरिएंटेड, एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन ओरिएंटेड है, और आपने स्वयं मिनिस्टर ऑफ कॉमर्स में इस पर फोकस किया है। नेशनल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग मिशन जो हम नया शुरू करने जा रहे हैं, लक्ष्य तो हमारा है कि जीडीपी में 17% के कंट्रीब्यूशन को बढ़ा करके 25% तक ले जाए। बहुत सालों से हम इसकी चर्चा सुन रहे हैं, जैसे जीएसटी की चर्चा हमने 17 सालों तक सुनी। क्या हम करने जा रहे हैं नेशनल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग मिशन में, और इसका आउटकम को क्या देखते हैं आप आउटकम के रूप में?
इंडिया का पोटेंशियल एक्सपोर्ट में बहुत है, मगर जीएसटी आने से पहले तरह तरह के टैक्स का वजह से उनको कॉम्पिटिटिव बनना मुश्किल हुआ। अभी जीएसटी आ गए, उसमें आईजीएसटी है, एक्सपोर्ट करने वाले को टैक्स ही नहीं है। ऐसे टैक्सेशन के द्वारा हम राहत दे रहे हैं वैसे भी सिस्टम में, मगर आज ग्लोबल फ्लक्चुएशन जितने भी, वोलेटिलिटी एज दे से इट, जितने भी हैं, उसके कारण हमारे एक्सपोर्ट्स को नया मार्केट ढूंढने में दिक्कत हो रही है। फिर ऑल्सो उधर जाके बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट्स करने के बाद इधर इंश्योरेंस का ईसीजीसी के द्वारा, एग्जिम बैंक के द्वारा उनका जो भी सपोर्ट होना है एक्सपोर्ट क्रेडिट में, वो सपोर्ट देने के लिए उनको भी ज़्यादा कैपिटल इन्फ्यूशन करके एक्सपोर्ट क्रेडिट गारंटी कॉर्पोरेशन को ज़्यादा प्रोजेक्ट्स को गारंटी देने के लिए उनका क्षमता बढ़ाना, वो एक कार्यक्रम है। फिर एक्सपोर्टर्स का दूसरा एक भी विषय आता है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कॉस्ट और लॉजिस्टिक्स में बहुत दिक्कत आते हैं, क्योंकि अगर मान लीजिए छत्तीसगढ़ जैसे एक एरिया में है तो समुद्र तक जाना, क्योंकि हर एक्सपोर्ट एयर कार्गो बन नहीं सकते हैं, बहुत सारे सी कार्गो है, मगर सी कार्गो मतलब छत्तीसगढ़ से कोई नज़दीक वाले सी पोर्ट जाना भी उनको मुश्किल होता है। इन सभी विषयों को मन में रखते हुए कैसे इनके साथ सपोर्ट करें, और एक्सपोर्ट प्रमोशन काउंसिल्स जो है 32 और सम नंबर, उन सब के साथ भी डिस्कशन करने के बाद कैसे इसको आगे लेके जाना है, ये सब वर्कआउट कर रहे हैं। इसमें न्यू मार्केट के लिए, फिर भारत में ही रिवर्स बायर सेलर मीट रखने के लिए, फिर इसके साथ साथ अगर FTAs होता है, उस FTA में आपको कितना हम दे पाएंगे मार्केट एक्सेस, जितना उनसे हम एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं, ये सब के लिए कुछ इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज्ड मैकेनिज्म ले आना, ये सब इसमें शामिल है।
मैन्युफैक्चरिंग मिशन का प्लान पार्ट होगा ये।
हाँ, और इसमें भारत नेट का वो ट्रेड वाला डिटेल्स का भी एक नया डिजिटल डेटा बैंक और डैशबोर्ड बनाने का भी एक बड़ा सा कदम है, उसका भी मैं घोषणा की। ये सब एक्सपोर्ट प्रमोशन के लिए ही।
And what's the purpose, ma'am, of the Maritime Development Fund? You have given a corpus of 25,000 crore rupees for this.
We have several ports and there are very many possible use cases in each one of them. Other than that also, there are ship breaking activities which are happening in India. Once upon a time we were a lead global ship breaking center. But today, because of the competition being different and the kind of environment consciousness which has come over, we have a problem there as well. Other than that, we also want to promote building of ships of a certain tonnage and no more, not smaller ones. Clearly, those which are essential for India's future, whether you want oil tankers, whether you want ships to carry certain container loads, we need support. That is why we've created.
मैम, अब अंतिम सवाल मैं आपसे करना चाहता हूं, चूंकि G20 के अध्यक्ष के तौर पर आपने पूरी दुनिया में वुमेन लेड डेवलपमेंट, DPI, डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन एक बड़ी ही प्रोमिनेंटली रखा भारत की ओर से। तो मेरा अंतिम प्रश्न आपसे यह है कि भारत की एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन का अपना खुद का मॉडल क्या होना चाहिए और आपने न्यूक्लियर पावर पर इतना बड़ा फोकस इस बजट में क्यों दिया है?
हाँ, ये बहुत ही अहम अनाउंसमेंट है इस बजट के द्वारा। पिछले बजट में हम हाइड्रो इलेक्ट्रिक पावर स्टेशंस में पंप्ड स्टोरेज का अनाउंसमेंट किया, जिसमें एक ही पानी है, एक बार बिजली उससे निकालना है या 2 बार वो निकालना है। पंप स्टोरेज का मतलब 2 बार उसी पानी को चलाते हुए, सो उससे कॉस्ट भी कम होता है, पावर जनरेशन भी ज़्यादा हो सकता है। ये सब करने के बावजूद भी हमें, और क्योंकि भारत का बिजली कंजम्पशन बढ़ने वाले हैं और बढ़ने वाले हैं आने वाले सालों में, हम परमानेंटली इसके लिए कुछ सोल्यूशन विच इज़ रिन्यूएबल करने के लिए कोशिश कर रहे थे। कोयला को वापस जाके थर्मल यूनिट लगाना नहीं है, मगर इसमें इसीलिए स्मॉल मॉड्यूलर रिएक्टर्स का सोच आया। भारत में ही उसका तकनीक अभी ऑलमोस्ट फाइनल स्टेज में आ गए हैं। हम छोटे छोटे न्यूक्लियर रिएक्टर्स बनाने में अपने आप का टेक्नोलॉजी के विषय में सक्षम है, इसीलिए इस को प्रोत्साहन देने के लिए हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं, जिससे भारत में ही जहाँ चाहिए वहाँ छोटे छोटे, पहले जो न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी सेंटर्स बना कुडम जैसे, वो सब बड़ा बड़ा है, ये छोटा के कारण जहाँ चाहिए वहाँ लगा सकते हैं।
प्राइवेट सेक्टर के लिए भी खोलेंगे इसको?
हाँ जी।
Ma'am, may I squeeze in one last question, ma'am, about you so many tax concessions and you have a fiscal deficit target of 4.4% of GDP. So, I mean, how is this going to be met? Where are you getting your other sources of revenue from?
Well, I think we have worked out for ourselves as to how far we can go on this, and we are very clear that when the consumption increases because of more money in the people's hand, anyway some of this money would also be plowed back into the economy, which will generate revenue. So that is one. Second, I was talking about asset monetization. We'll certainly look at how best we can take that forward. So that will fall in place, and we are confident that it will work out. Tax net will also be, we'll make sure we'll widen the tax net.
वित्त मंत्री जी, हमने कोई भी राजनीतिक सवाल आपसे नहीं किया, लेकिन ड्रीम बजट आपको याद होगा 1997 को कहा गया था, उसके बाद विकसित भारत का बजट, नए भारत का बजट। आप इस बजट को कैसे परिभाषित करना चाहेंगी? प्रधानमंत्री ने इसे पीपल्स बजट कहा है।
बिल्कुल ये पीपल्स बजट है, क्योंकि जनता से जो आवाज आया कि हमारे लिए एजुकेशन के लिए फैसिलिटी बना दो, पोषण के लिए बच्चे के लिए कुछ करो, और हायर एजुकेशन के लिए हमें फैसिलिटी करके दिखाओ, मेडिकल एजुकेशन के लिए विदेश में जाकर हमारे फॉरेन एक्सचेंज को खर्च कर रहे हैं, या कि इधर मेडिकल एजुकेशन के सीट्स बढ़ा दो, 75,000 और 5 साल में करने वाले हैं नया सीट्स। सो ऐसे जनता से समय समय पर जो आवाज़ आ रही है उसी को हम रिस्पॉन्ड करते हुए हर मेशर ले रहे हैं, और इसके कारण ही इनकम टैक्स का एक्ट को सिंप्लीफाई करने की घोषणा मैंने जुलाई बजट में की। अभी वो बिल लेके आ रहे हैं इस आने वाले सप्ताह में।
वित्त मंत्री जी, बहुत धन्यवाद आपका समय देने के लिए। और जिस तरह से आपने कहा कि सबका साथ ये आपका लक्ष्य है विकसित भारत के लिए, आपने समय समय पर समीक्षा की, सभी की सिफारिशें ली और उनको इनकॉर्पोरेट करने की कोशिश की। इस मंथन में जरूर कुछ न कुछ आपको परेशानियों का सामना करना पड़ा होगा, लेकिन आपने कहा प्रधानमंत्री के मार्गदर्शन में एक पीपुल्स बजट इस देश को मिला है। आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। फिलहाल इस खास प्रसारण में मेरे और मेरे सहयोगी मार्क पैट्रिक लिन के साथ सिर्फ इतना ही। दीजिए इजाजत, नमस्कार।
थैंक यू।
Right, you're watching an exclusive interview of India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman here on DD India with my colleagues Ajay Mishra and Mark Lin. Just to recap the highlights from that interview, the Minister explaining in detail about the implications of this budget on various stakeholders, be they industry, be they MSMEs, be they the individual taxpayers, how it will spur consumption and also lead to an inclusive growth going forward. She also spoke about the philosophy and guiding principles behind this budget. She spoke about how the thought was to have a responsive government and governance. She spoke about simplifying the income tax bill or laws going forward, how the government wants to give an impetus to civil nuclear energy, and also transforming the India Post into a more holistic and entity dealing with logistics in particular. She described it as a people's budget focusing on inclusive growth and development. Right, time for a very short break here on this special broadcast, but news and updates continue on the other side. Stay tuned.
पर लोन लेने के लिए खुद का हैवी मार्जिन लगाना पड़ता है। 80% तक का बिजनेस लोन मिलेगा, हाँ? वो भी कोलैटरल फ्री। अच्छा, 5 करोड़ तक बैंक ऑफ बड़ौदा संभाल लेगा। बड़ौदा महिला स्वावलंबन लोन, तो शुरू कीजिए अपना ड्रीम बिजनेस।